welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. My name is Jemma, and with me this week I have President Hudson's biggest supporter. I have Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
It's good to be here. President Hudson's giving me time because I have taken a job with him.
And I also have the dynamic duo of Justin and Katey. Welcome, Justin and Katey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's good to have you. I don't know if Katey's been on this show before or for a while at least, so it's really nice to have you back.
I think this is the first time for this particular podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. And this week we're going to be dedicating our time to Tears of the Kingdom once again because it's just such a huge game and we only have an hour to talk about it. So this week we'll avoid major spoilers. We're not going to tell you where Zelda is or where the Master Sword is, but we're going to be a little bit more helpful and try to give you some tips and tricks along the way with things that we've discovered. But let's start off and see where we're at. Now, Justin, you weren't with us last week, so would you like to start by saying kind of briefly where you're at in the game, how much time you've spent, and kind of what you've been doing, adventuring-wise, and Katey as well? Because you guys have your own copy each, right? So you're kind of on different tangents. Is that the deal?
Yeah. So we're doing our own games and our own way of playing.
I'm at 15 hours or more.
Mm-hmm.
At 10
hours or more. Yeah. So we're pretty close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you helping each other?
We've been taking like just different routes. We have been helping out with some of the shrines.
It did help me that one time. I had to jump over some laser thing, and I just couldn't get the timing right. Yeah, and you're like, I'll help you out.
Well, and then she's been finding stuff that I haven't been finding. So I've been going to more of the dungeon locations, and she's been doing the geoglyphs and things. Yeah. And I was like, where is that? I don't know what are those? I haven't even touched that quest. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. And Kirk, how are you going? How's your timeline looking these days? Because you were at like 25 last week, I think.
Yes, and I'm now at 50 plus hours.
Nice.
I don't know if I put 25 hours in last week. That was just an estimate, I think, because
true.
it wasn't reporting it yet. So I can't imagine I spent 25 hours in 1 week. Maybe I did, but yeah, 50 plus.
Either way, that's pretty impressive. How's your son Sam going?
He's further along than I am. He's put more time into it than me, I think, and has been helping me out where necessary. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm at around the 25 to 30 mark. Mine does say 25 or more. So I was, I didn't get as much time this week as I'd hoped. I've been trying to play a little bit every day or night. As we all know, it's hard to fit in sometimes with work and kids and stuff. But I've seen, and I wanted to kind of bring this point up first, is that, everyone's got different hours. And I think even on Twitter and on the internet in general, you see people are doing 60 or 100 hours, whatever. But the one thing they all have in common is that they all feel like they really have a lot more to go. It's like, this is a huge game. This is so massive. So, and like you guys are saying, Justin and Katey, you kind of can go in any direction at any point and do whatever you like. And I'm loving it so much. I just can't stop thinking about this game. I haven't been this into a game probably in a long time, but are you having that same feeling? Are you kind of like just wanting to jump straight back in? Maybe Justin, how do you feel? Because we didn't have you on last week. So really keen for your impressions, after you've been in the game for 15 hours.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a lot of fun. I've been doing some of the dungeons. I've been kind of beelining it to the, as soon as you get those 4 points, right, for the phenomena or whatever that you have to investigate. So I did the northwest one first, and then the north one, and then the east one is what I'm on right now. But like I guess impressions wise, like there's aspects that have improved that I'm like, this is great. Honestly, the bosses have been really fun.
Yeah.
But the dungeons or the temples, as they're calling them, have been just a little bit underwhelming. But anyways, but otherwise, like the caves, the chasms, I could still explore quite a bit of the depths of the chasms. But But like, I don't know that I have a fully formed opinion yet, but at least so far, the things that I didn't necessarily like about the formula in Breath of the Wild are still kind of there. And it's still totally understandable. A game sells 30 million copies. You're not going to do too much from that.
Yeah.
But I like that the dungeons are themed, at least. I think that was something that I had mentioned for Breath of the Wild that I'd want to see improved. Because really the divine beasts and the shrines in the first game were largely the same aesthetically. So now we've got a wind temple, we've got a fire temple, we've got a water temple, and they're all fairly diverse, which is really cool. And again, the bosses are really fun, but there's just not so much in the way of puzzles that I was hoping for in the dungeons. It seems like they still, like, more of the interesting puzzles are happening in the shrines, and the shrines are great, but they're like these little pieces of like these little highs where you solve it and you're like, oh, okay, it's done. Okay, I just got a little orb. I need to collect 4 of those to get a heart container. Like, it's just a little bit of that. With some of the dungeons and past Zelda games, it was kind of this big culmination. I liked getting the keys and having kind of it's kind of nice having it fully open, like in the Goron place. You can kind of fly around and do whatever you want with the mine carts and kind of because you can solve it 20, 50 different ways, it does kind of just I don't know, it made it just a little less special. But so I'm still definitely enjoying my time, but anyways.
Okay, that's cool. I'm interested in this dungeon thing because I haven't done any dungeons. So this is a part of going different ways and doing different things. And Kirk, I think you had already encountered dungeons last week. Is that correct?
Yes. I had finished 1 last week and now I'm at 2.
Okay. Now, this might be a tip because I don't really know. I'm having a little trouble understanding the difference between, say, dungeons and chasms. They're not the same thing, right?
Correct.
Okay, so chasms, I have been in a chasm this week because I hadn't last week. So I've been finding the chasms, but I think I explained last week I was late in getting the paraglider because I went roaming first and then I couldn't do anything that needed, gliding. So I did go back and get that. And so I did take my first foray into a chasm, and we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the dungeons for a second, because you said that what was the word you used? You have to go and find the 4 things?
Phenomena. Right? Like I think that's what the main quest says, right? It's like investigate the 4 phenomena that are happening or something.
Yeah, once you jump off the Sky Island, I think you meet up with, what's her name? Pura, and she sends you on the...
Yeah, and so that's like the first main quest is like, hey, you've got these 4, here's 4 little, yellow dots, explore these. But so I kind of went straight to doing that. I did actually see one of the geoglyphs, but I got distracted with a cave. So it was like it's the geoglyph. Like if you're heading west from Hyrule Castle Town there, or that they're rebuilding. So I just headed west. You see a geoglyph on this nice, grassy hill, and I was walking up to it, and there was a little dot, and I'm like, oh, is this dot like part of the geoglyph? Is this part of the thing? And I got closer to it, and I was like, oh, it's a hole. But it was this real tiny hole that's like literally just like the size of Link, basically. And I'm like, should I fall down? Sure, let's go. And I went down there, and it ended up being a cave that Katey had found as well, but she found the proper entrance to it. I happened to, fall into this hole. But anyways, the caves have been really interesting. So that's kind of the difference too, is like the chasms are almost like these massive holes that go all the way down to the depths, right? Which is that kind of, it's a large area under Hyrule down there. But then the caves are like these little, literally caves that are in the overworld, right? They're in Hyrule proper. They might be. I've seen some in Death Mountain area, and then some in the Rito area, and they're pretty diverse. There's some pretty cool plants and creatures in there. I've seen plenty of likes and different types of.
Yeah, I've seen them.
But anyways,
and I think there's like over 400 caves to explore. So there are a lot, many caves. I don't know how many. I don't know if that one keeps it count for you. I don't think you can necessarily see how many caves you've explored.
I know it puts a check mark on your map, I think.
Oh, yeah?
So if you do like there's a little cave icon on the map, and then if it has a little check mark
on it,
if there's a check mark on it, then you've at least you know how like you get when you go into a cave, it says discovery, and then it gives some name.
Yes.
And then, anyways,
yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll have a count somewhere in the pause menu.
Maybe you would think so. That's cool. I didn't know about the check thing. That's pretty interesting. And how many of the sky towers have we got? Maybe Katey, you want to field that question?
I've gotten 3 sky towers so far.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good, and you've been playing 10 hours. You're doing so well.
Yeah, I kind of did sort of more of like I was hitting the glyphs and the shrines and the towers, the dungeons, where Justin was like, dungeons.
Because that's the thing that he missed the most, I think, in Breath of the Wild.
Kind of like, show me what you got.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I think I found 4 sky towers, but 2 didn't work, and I need to work out how to kind of get into them. Like the first one obviously was the lookout, whatever it's called, lookout landing, whatever it is. That one obviously works. I found some other random one that worked, and that's down south somewhere. I think near Lake Hyrulian somewhere. But there were 2 others I found on the way, and one had a guard out the front, like not a zono guard or anything, just one of the bird creatures. What's the name of that species?
Rico.
Yes, one of those guys. And he was like, yeah, I can't get in. It's kind of stuck. And he went on about mushrooms. So I'm not sure what he wants from me. Maybe some mushrooms, but I couldn't work it out, so I moved on. And then there's another one that the door was open, but the Pura pad thingy wouldn't activate. So something's wrong with that one. So I need to like do something there as well. So I don't know if anyone else has come across these 2 in particular. Yes?
Yeah, so I did come across some of those, and there are each of the towers that I've come across, there's sort of some little puzzles to there was one where the top of it was open.
Ooh.
But yeah, the Pura pad wasn't working, and so you have to just kind of work out how to get in around that. And then another one had that like sludge stuff.
Oh, okay.
I haven't encountered the sludge.
Yeah, the sludge is interesting, and it's funny. Like once I discovered how to get in there, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know. But like you go there and you're like, there's sludges blocking my way. This is ridiculous. Why, you know? And kind of stomp off in disgust of like, I wanted to get into this tower and I can't do it. Come to find out, I literally had the item and or items to get in there, but I just didn't know that was what would do it. But anyway,
right, okay. And Kirk, how's your Sky Tower exploration going?
I think I'm up to 5.
Wow,
now.
Okay. That's pretty good.
At the beginning, I was sort of seeking them out because of how important they were in the last one. Now it's just if I see one nearby, it makes exploration easier. So I'm like, why not go, get this? And getting access to the sky, especially if you're looking for glyphs, if you're, it shoots you up and you can see everything, they're easier to find.
Yeah, true.
I will say that a few of them have had puzzles to get into them. And in my experience, everything you need to get in is like right at that location. So you're not going to have to explore all of Hyrule to find what you need to get in. It's just a matter of figuring out what's available to you with right in the area, or discovering what you need to and then going in.
Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah. Do we know how many there are altogether in terms of Sky Towers? Like you've got 5. Are there like 8 or 10?
It seems like on the map, like the regions are bigger now, which I kind of like that it's not as many towers. So it seems like there's fewer towers, which is kind of cool because like you still can get up to the sky with the recall ability and the little falling pieces, like falling chunks, right, of the Sky Islands. So I think they figured like, well, we don't need as many towers. You don't need to get up as high everywhere because you are going to be able to get up there with just, doing recall on those. And
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's less. I'm trying to remember the last game. Was there like 16 or 20 towers?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
But
I
it
think-
seemed like I encountered them more frequently than like this one. Seemed like there's fewer.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of Sky Islands, I mean, so have you used the ascend ability to get back up? Is that something that everyone's done or not?
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. You guys have packed a lot into your time so far. When I was at like 10, 15 hours, I hadn't. I think I tried to like recall, sorry, not ascend. Yeah. When I tried to recall one of those things that came crashing down, one of those like rock pieces or whatever, it went up to nowhere. So I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. Maybe I didn't have the glider though at that point. So maybe I could have glided somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think once you get the paraglider, that's really key, right? Because then you can, even if it doesn't connect to some other bigger sky islands, that little rock piece, it still gets you up higher, and then you can just glide from
there.
But,
yeah, so I mean, you can divide the world into three, I suppose. You've got Hyrule proper, like you said. We've got the chasms and the depths, and then there's the Sky Islands. So you can kind of, and I mean, I've chosen to stay mostly in Hyrule. I haven't really gone, apart from one chasm and a little tiny amount of Sky Island exploration. So I've been sort of centering my attention there. Kirk, what's your kind of, I guess, proportion-wise? Are you kind of mostly in Hyrule? Because you've done a lot of kind of depths and chasm stuff, I think.
Yeah, mostly Hyrule. I haven't sought out any Sky Islands unless a quest or the story called for it. Sometimes if I'm up in the air, they, either via recall or the towers, and I'm nearby one, I will check it out. I'll land and check it out. But for the most part, on Hyrule, I haven't gone back into the chasms much at all. And I think I should say chasm because I believe it's just one huge area underground that, no matter where you go in, you're going to be able to access everything. You can run around down there like you could on Hyrule itself. At least it seems that way to me from what I've seen so far. But I'm still trying to get some better weapons and some better outfits that'll help me out down there, so I'm more effective against the monsters that I'm
like
facing.
the glowing pants that you had.
yeah.
Because they take away your hearts. Like,
it's terrible.
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, my one chasm experience, I don't know why I finally decided to go into one, because I was on a quest, not a quest, but I was on a mission myself to get to the next geoglyph, because I saw one over near Lake Hylia, and again I was just exploring. I was just wandering around looking for sky towers, looking for shrines, and I saw a geoglyph on a hill kind of on the side, over that way. And this is kind of south, near the lake area. And there was a chasm there, and I don't know why I thought, you know what, it's time to go into a chasm. So I did. And I mean, I don't know if I'm glad I did, because it's terrifying down there. It's like so dark. And like you said, you touch what is the stuff called that's on the ground?
The gloom?
The gloom? Yeah. So you touch the gloom, you lose hearts. And then I went to eat something to, refill my hearts. And it says, oh, this won't refill your hearts.
Yeah.
That's like, are you sure you want to still eat? And the first time I was like, of course, still eat. Like, I didn't read the thing, and I was like, eat.
Yeah, me
like,
too. Me too. And then I realized, I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh, maybe I ate the wrong thing. So I looked at another one. I actually looked at the message. I'm like, wait, I can't revive down here? This is terrible. So the one chasm that I went to, it seems a small one, because there was only, how there's those light towers under the ground, like in the chasms? Yeah.
The light roots.
Light roots. This one only had one, as far as I can tell. And I kind of looked it up because I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I found the one light root and I activated it. And then I'm wandering around getting, gloomed all over me, and enemies. And because the enemies are hard to attack, because then they go into the gloom and you're like, well, I don't want to attack you there because I'll get affected. So I'm wandering around. I have no idea what to do. So I looked it up, and apparently there's only one light route in this particular chasm near Lake Hylia. But most of them have a bunch, right? You have to go around and activate a whole lot. So I think this is the exception, but I couldn't find any other way. And that was my question to you as well. I couldn't find any way out of this thing. So I just fast traveled. I could not find an exit. Is there meant to be an exit to these chasms? Because they seem like you're trapped there forever.
I think,
who wants to answer that?
I think so. Like I've fast traveled previously too, Kirk, but I think the light routes, aren't they supposed to be able to warp you back up? Or
I couldn't find a way to. Kirk, with more experience down there, have you?
I have always just sought the easiest way out, and that was always just to fast travel. So if there is another way out, I haven't even gone looking for it. I just warp to the nearest location or whatever I want to do next.
I wasted so much time trying to ascend through a light route. Yeah, I climbed up on the light route and then tried to ascend. No, it just didn't. At least not in this one particular one that I was in. And I mean, how do you know when you're in a chasm when you found all the light routes? Because that was the other thing. I didn't know until I Googled that this one only had the one. Like, how do you know when you're done in a chasm?
Yeah, well, again, like Kirk said, I think that it's all interconnected down there. I haven't unlocked the full map, but and I don't want to spoil anything necessarily, but I think it's very large down there. So, like the chasms truly are just a hole that connects you from Hyrule to the lower world.
Yeah,
sort of like low rule, but not low rule.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I just it's so different and dark, and like, I mean, so Trev isn't with us today, but his tip was to collect as many bright blooms as possible. Yeah. And I know why he said that, because you need them in the chasms, in the depths. Yeah, it's really, really dark. Do not underestimate. If you haven't been there, if you're listening and you haven't been down there, stock up on bright blooms.
And you get a lot of bright blooms in caves.
Yes, that's true.
Or even on the Sky Islands caves, there's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a good supply. I think I have well over 100 at the moment. So, yeah, but I've only done the one chasm. So, yeah, I know I'll need a lot more. It's amazing how detailed it is in terms of these 3 levels. Like I was saying, the overworld, underworld, and then the sky world. It's just so much detail. And I said this last week, I just can't imagine how much time and effort has gone into creating this world for us to run around in. It's just, it's incredible. Let's go back to geoglyphs for a second then. So have we all spoken to Impa? I'm guessing?
I have not.
Yeah, Jessica has.
I have not,
Yeah, okay, cool. And so from there, and do we want to say where she is to help people, or do we not want to give that information away, kind of give some kind of clue as to where she's located in terms of like east-west of Central Hyrule?
I think if you follow the story elements, it takes you to her pretty quickly. So if you haven't found her, then just like go to one of the yellow dots. I believe it's been a while because that was one of the first things I did.
It was like basically I got distracted by that cave, and I think she was basically like 100 feet from that, But I went down the cave and then I just kind of moved on.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, or Kirk, like, in that initial, if you're going west towards Rito, towards that first yellow dot, you find the first stable, and then that geoglyph is right there, and Impa's like in the middle of it. So yeah, Katey was like, I found Impa, and I was like, what? And she and Katey was like, I'm going to the Forgotten Temple, and I'm like, what? I was like, what are you doing? But yeah, so she's further along on that kind of main quest, but
yeah.
And she's like, you're going straight to the dungeons? What are you doing?
I'm interested how many shrines you've got, Katey, because that's been your focus. Well, one of your focuses.
Well, if you include the 3 on the Sky Island, I've got 13.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Yeah, that's actually really good for 10 hours. I'm so impressed. Yeah, because I think including those ones up above, I've got maybe 18 after 25 hours. So, yeah. How about you, Kirk? What's your shrine collection?
I don't know the actual number. I know that when my son sees it, he makes fun of me because he's got so many more than I do. So maybe I'm not looking out of shame. I would assume it's probably around 20.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell, because once you trade in your blessings for hearts or stamina, can you still see how many you've done anywhere?
I'd imagine on your map it would show.
Well, they're all teleportation points.
Yeah. But there's no like number. You can't just see it. You've done
I don't
X
know.
shrines.
I don't know if there
I
is.
think that there may be an icon on like the screen when you warp around and it shows you like some progress elements up there. I believe there's an icon for shrines.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, the geoglyphs are really interesting. So I've only found 2 so far. The one with Impa, and then the one that I was saying on the mountains, kind of down south near Lake Hillier. I'm guessing it's south because it's down on the map, right? The map doesn't turn around or anything, does it?
No.
It's like north is up, south is down, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so that was fun. And that's it. It was when I got distracted by the chasm, and then I had to fast travel to the nearest shrine, which wasn't really that close. So then I had to kind of travel back to the thing. And so the other thing that was near this geoglyph was the Great Plateau, which I think Kirk mentioned last week.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I did go back up there.
Yes. So that's kind of the area I'm in at the moment. And I'm not really sure what to do in the Great Plateau. It's just another area really to explore, but it looks like there's another sky tower that I'm heading towards and another shrine or 2. So I keep thinking I need to go back to the very beginning, like to the kind of lookout landing and maybe go to the first chasm, because maybe that's more obvious chasm to try first rather than one random one out in the middle of nowhere. So and I also need to go back and trade in some of my blessings for hearts. I haven't actually done that in a while, and I could probably use some more stamina. But I keep getting distracted. Is this a problem that anyone else is having? Where it's like, oh, I should do that, but I think, Justin, you kind of mentioned that you got distracted on the way to whatever, Emperor or the Geoglyphs or something. So is this a common theme that we're finding?
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Do you find that more exciting or annoying, or just a little bit of both?
Yeah, probably a little of both. Like there is just a lot of interesting things, so it's you almost feel a little spoiled. Like, man, if we're complaining about that, man, there's so many interesting things to do. Like that for all the other games out there that aren't as amazing as Zelda games, it's like, hey, easy, But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it is a little bit annoying, but it's still fun. Like there is just so much to do. I think at times, like my impression of the game, like I remember again, some of the older Zelda games, you could beat most any Zelda game in 20 to 30 hours, right? Like you could pretty much see everything. If you wanted 100% a previous Zelda game, like a 3D one, 2D ones are probably a little bit shorter, but you're looking at 20 to 40 hours. Like this, like you're saying, Kirk, like you could be 50 hours in and you're like, I've done one of the dungeons or 2, like there's just so much there's so many different things you can do in the game that are really diverse. You don't have to go to the dungeons at all, right? Like, hey, I want to find more Zonai parts and I want to build the craziest mech thing I can think of, or there's so much to do. So it feels like a game where you're more often than not determining what you're going to do in it rather than it telling you what to do. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you kind of you're in control, I suppose. You're leading your own adventure, and yeah, it's so I guess, yeah, why it's annoying or exciting. It's obviously exciting for the reasons you just said. It's a huge game with like so many hours worth of gameplay. I don't even know what kind of number we're going to be looking at by the time we ever get sick of this or finish it, but it's going to be well over 100. Annoying, it's only because for me, I just like ticking things off a list. I like to complete things. And when I keep seeing caves and I keep seeing, like, I just go straight for them, obviously, but I want to get stuff done. And there's a lot to do. It's a little overwhelming, I suppose, is more of a better term. It can be overwhelming. It's just, I just want to do this, but then I also have to do this. And it's like, it's almost like a real life situation where you're at work and you've got these tasks you need to do and you need to prioritize them. It's like putting that into Zelda, like I need to do this first and then this and then this and then I can do this and then I can get this and then I really want to do this. I need to make time for that. So yeah, it's an interesting way to play. But as I said, I'm having a lot of fun with it and kind of thinking about it when I'm not playing it. So I think that's a good sign. So but let's talk about some more of the kind of collectibles, because there are so many. Like, apart from chasms, apart from sky islands and geoglyphs and dungeons, there's and then caves. I've already mentioned caves, over 400 of those. There's just so much more to do. I mean, we all know about the Korok seeds. I think there's 1,000 this time around. And I mean, I'm not actively looking for them. I just seem to find them randomly. But there's also things like President Hudson. So at the start, I kind of alluded to that with Kirk, because you seem to be a fan of President Hudson. Well, just based on last week anyway. And I hadn't really even interacted much with his supporter. Does he have a name? Does President Hudson's supporter have a name?
Yeah, it begins with an A. I can't remember the actual name.
Okay.
But yeah, like Addison? It may be Addison.
Something like that.
Yep.
So if you haven't found these, it's those little, what do you call it, little kind of areas of buildable materials, and someone's there putting a sign up to say, what does the sign even say? President Hudson.
Yeah, like President Hudson owns a construction company.
Yeah,
and so
right.
this fellow's putting up signs everywhere, like promotion, maybe, I guess. He's like the guy in the cup or the banana outfit, the grill outfit in front of the car wash trying to get people to come in.
Yes. Yeah, and he's having trouble putting up his signs. He's sort of holding it up, but he can't make it stand up without letting it go.
He's so bad at his job.
He's not great. Yeah. So, of course, Link helps out. And I love this because in all the darkness of chasms and Ganondorf and all the rest, we've lost Zelda to time, whatever, there's this added, whatever his name is, running around trying to put up signs for President Hudson. And I just love, I love the kind of, I don't know, the juxtaposition between those two things. So how many signs do you reckon you've actually put up for Addison, Kirk?
I would say maybe around 15, 20.
Wow, okay.
I will say every time I find him, I will not leave until I get the sign up, and he gives you things. So it's not like you're doing it, you're doing it to be nice, but he is rewarding you with some nice items.
Yeah.
So
his rewards are pretty good too, I find.
And they're fun little puzzles. I like them more than say finding that guy, that Korok, who needs to go make it to his buddy, but he's too tired to go anywhere. Those annoy me. Yeah. But President Hudson, and I could give you a slight spoiler. I don't think it's a big deal, but you do eventually meet President Hudson.
Cool. Okay. That's nice. I like that. That makes me want to do it even more. I've only done a couple. Like, I've only encountered him a couple of times, so I've helped him when I've seen him. Our friend Addison, whatever his name is. I'm going to just call him Addison. So, I mean, you've done 15 to 20 and you've obviously met him, President Hudson, I mean. Do you think there are many more signs to put up? There must be heaps.
Yeah, I don't think meeting him impacts,
okay.
It's not like he stops and says, hey, you did this many for me, thanks. He's actually a little bit more important than that, I believe.
Okay, that's cool. Katey, have you encountered our friend Addison? I don't know if that's his name, but we're calling him that.
I have not, but now I'm definitely going to be looking out for him.
Yeah. Well, that's what Kirk was surprised last week, because I didn't encounter him well into the game. Like, I must have been 15 hours in before I even saw him the first time. Whereas Kirk found him, you said, within like 20 minutes.
Oh. Yeah, I came across that guy pretty quickly.
Yeah. It was one of the first things I came across, too, Kirk. So I think I've set up maybe 2 or 3 of the signs. But.
Right, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Everyone's experience is different.
The rewards are decent, like, because he'll give you like food, like even he'll give you like even some cooked food. And then some other. He might give you some recipes. I have been disappointed with some rewards. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm just getting arrows, like you get really complex, and here's some arrows, and it's like, But yeah, and the Korok Oh, I'm done with the Koroks. 20 Korok. So I'm definitely not going to be that person trying to get all the Korok seeds. But
yeah, I don't know how anyone could get all 1,000. Well, I think it's 800 seeds and then 100 pairs you have to match, which
really?
give you 2 each, I think. So that's the 1,000. But yeah, 100 pairs, Kirk. What does that sound like to you? Because you love that.
I'd rather just spend the night in the chasm without any, without any light. Yeah. There was one where I had to like put him on one of those gliders and shoot him over a valley to this other thing. And I was on it and I went to grab him and I fell off. And when I landed, I look up and my glider is just disappearing over a mountain. And I thought, you know what? Good luck, buddy. Good luck. You find your own way home.
The crimes against Koroks are many.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been seeing people like strapping rockets to them.
Oh my gosh, really?
Someone made a Korok rotisserie,
Wow. Oh my gosh. I haven't encountered any of that. I haven't even seen any pairs apart from the one I saw at the beginning up in the Sky Island area, the Great Sky Island. Down on Hyrule, I've only been finding individual ones randomly. I haven't seen any pairs, which I'm kind of glad about because I probably will feel compelled to help them.
I know. Yeah. It'd be one of those things like you need to complete it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes, I know. And I'm like, but I need to get to the thing. So yeah, I'm kind of grateful for that. Having said that, I bet you when I play like next, which will be later today, I'll probably find one and I'll be like, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kirk and everyone else. Yeah. But it is funny. I guess it is another light-sided part of the game, along with President Hudson, to keep it a little bit, not so dark and gloomy. So, yeah. And I do wonder I suppose there has to be someone out there who just wants to find all 1,000 Korok seeds. There'll be someone. And it's pretty impressive. I will say my hat goes off to that person or those people.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah, so I think you mentioned bosses earlier, Justin, in the dungeons. Did you say you've done 3 dungeons?
Well, so I've finished 2. I'm on the 3rd one.
Right, okay, cool. And you said the bosses were quite, I guess, impressive or at least interesting and fun? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, I do. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I can tell you some of the features with it. Like they're definitely much more grand, in Breath of the Wild you had, what was it, Thunder Blight Ganon, Wind Blight Ganon, and they're all kind of in a room. You're basically just in a room with, I guess the Wind Blight one, you're on top of the flying Divine Beast, right? So there's a little bit more open space. The 2 that I've fought are very large. They're big bosses. These are maybe 100 times as big as the Ganon, so they're massive. There was kind of an interesting like overworld boss you fought before one of them too, and just to give some idea, like there's a lot of like pre-dungeon stuff that's happening, and that's and some of that's pretty interesting. So I don't want to totally discount the dungeons proper, as they call them, temples, but so think of it like they have added more to these dungeons than in Breath of the Wild for sure, but they've kind of spread it out. So you remember like in Skyward Sword, it was almost, you had a lot of lead up to a dungeon, right? Like a lot of puzzles, and there's a lot of stuff you're just doing just to get up to, the top of the fire temple, right? And so it's a similar type of thing in Tears of the Kingdom, where there's a ton of traversal puzzles and, some new abilities and things that you can get on your way up to the dungeon. And so that's pretty interesting in and of itself. But then the dungeons proper, when you actually get in there, they were just, they're again just a bit maybe too open, and you can solve it in just so many different ways. Like there's some decent puzzles, but there's not that many enemies. That was one of the things with the Divine Beast. There really wasn't any enemies, and there's like just a handful of them. So they just feel really empty, and it is kind of the it's a similar structure to the Divine Beast where you're just solving some switches, right? So you're basically like, hey, there's 5 locks, and you're solving them in kind of different ways. So that's been a little bit of a bummer in the sense that all the dungeons are following a similar theme with that.
Okay.
So like again, in past Zelda games, the desert temple, like in Twilight Princess, right? The Arbiter's Grounds is just a very different temple or a very different dungeon than even like the snow one, right? That's kind of just this mansion, and you're helping that lady. You're cooking,
the Yeti.
Yeah, the Yeti. You're cooking that pumpkin soup for them. So you're finding these like Twilight Princess had just such diverse dungeons, and they were just really interesting, and they utilized the unique item you got in the dungeons to cruise around. Like you're not going to see that in these dungeons, unfortunately. So
right, yeah.
But
they sound less traditional then, and maybe it's like their own kind of slant on the whole dungeon thing. Because you're right. In previous games, even going back to the 2D, like the top-down ones, you would find an item and that would become essential in that dungeon. Like the hook shot or whatever, right? Like you needed that to traverse the puzzles or to get to the boss and even to fight the boss. Yeah. So that seems to not be the case anymore.
Yeah, so it's basically you still have your core abilities, Ultra Hand and Fuse and all of that. Ascend, you're going to be using those quite a bit throughout these dungeons, but it just kind of it's like, oh, okay, this is just a themed area that part of it's indoors, but most of it's kind of outdoors, and you can kind of I'm using that phrase like, cheese it. You can kind of cheese it. So, like some people are saying with the dungeons where they're like, I couldn't figure out this puzzle, so I just I ultra handed a bunch of things together and I got across this thing, or like, right. Or I'll literally climb up the outside wall. Like there was this one part where I should have used recall and I didn't, and I realized it after the fact. I was I could have used recall here. Well, then I just climbed up the thing to get to the next floor. The dungeons still have maps and they still have floors. But the thing that's kind of a bummer too is they'll be like, oh, here's the location of how to unlock these 4 locks. And so they kind of you come into the dungeon and you just kind of right away get these 4 little yellow dots, and you're like, hey, here's what you need to do. And so it just reduces some of the fun and even discovering, a dungeon or finding those things. It's almost like it's the difference between a Ubisoft open world and what we've seen with Zelda, where Ubisoft would throw a bunch of icons on the map. Here's all the stuff you can do, right? Yeah. And it's okay, just let me actually discover the things for myself. And that's one thing that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does well, but I think they kind of shoot themselves in the foot by giving you the locations of those, because you're really I'm really not even paying attention to the dungeon layout. I'm like, oh, okay, that dot, I check my map, that dot's on floor number 4. Okay, I'll just go there, and it does look kind of, you can use some mine carts and one of the, there's some interesting traversal things, but it's you're kind of well, I'm going to jump out this window and just glide over there. There's not a lot of, I don't know, like some people would say, oh, well, the traditional dungeons were very, restrictive, and that's true, but it allowed for the puzzles to be more interconnected. And I think because it's so open now, they can't do those interconnected puzzles because you can solve it in just so many different ways. But I don't know. So that's the trade-off, right? That's the trade-off. If we want these kind of more open Zelda games, it does seem like they're a little bit more restricted on what they do dungeon wise. But
yeah, no, that makes sense. Not having done any dungeons yet, I haven't. I don't have that experience to draw upon. But Kirk, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, for the most part, I agree. The one thing I think the dungeons do well is each one of them introduces one of Link's companions.
Yeah.
And those companions have abilities that you need to use in order to get through. So they do a good job of forcing you to use those people. And then, because, wait, are we giving away spoilers again? I don't think it's a spoiler. I mentioned it last week. They kind of, in a way, accompany you from that point forward.
Yeah.
So you can rely on their abilities out in Hyrule and in the chasms and everything as well. So
that's handy.
That's the one thing. It's like sort of like the shrines are there pretty much to teach you this is how you use this ability. You're going to need to use it in order to solve the shrine.
Yeah.
They do the same with the companions in the dungeons. Here's your companion. This is the power that he gives you. You're going to need to do this in order to get through the dungeon.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Like the companions are almost acting like the dungeon item in a way,
Okay, that's interesting.
I do miss the days of getting, when you open that treasure chest that has the compass in it, and now you can see where all the treasure chests are, and you can see what you missed and what's still ahead. That was always my favorite thing in the Zelda dungeons, and that's completely gone. You just got to look around and hope you find what you find.
Yeah. Well, and even like even with the treasures, like there's been times like I've tried to get as many treasure chests as I see. I'll go open them, but just the payoff for some of them is just it's it is a bit of a bummer. Like typically treasure chests in Zelda, especially in a dungeon, it's like, oh, I'm getting a key or I'm getting something special here. No key.
Rupees
or rupees or something.
Rupees would be wonderful.
Yeah, rupees would be great. Like the only time I'm finding rupees is like occasionally bigger enemies will drop them, or I'm just selling stuff, right? Like I have to just sell stuff to get like there's like to get one of the armor setups. I'm like, it was like 700 rupees, and I'm like, how am I going to get 700? I was like, oh, I guess I could just sell a bunch of my stuff, but otherwise, like, I'm not seeing rupees at all. So
yeah, sometimes under rocks there are rupees, but not many.
And that ghost rabbit or whatever you can shoot with arrows.
That's right. Yeah. And you can shoot that multiple times and get some more.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do with that ghost rabbit. I was trying to sneak up on him and grab him, but he always hears me and then runs away. But he leads you to caves, right? Is that his job?
I guess so. I guess I have seen them New York Cave Adventures. And then there's that other blue thing that's kind of weird. It's bigger, but you...
Oh, the bulba frog? What is that what it's called?
Bubble frog?
Yeah, the bubble frog.
Yeah.
And it
I
drops
was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it drops these little bubble things, like crystal things.
It was like, crystal snowflakes or something.
Yeah, crystal snowflakes. Yeah.
I still don't figured out what those things do.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just killing this innocent frog.
I have worked that out. I was going to ask if you guys had done that, but no. Have you? Do you know what to do with those, Kirk?
I haven't done it yet, but yes, I've had tips from people who are like, "Hey, you've got some of those. There are these dudes who love them. You got to go talk to them."
Yes, there is.
So I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, we won't give away.
Stable, I think they're guiding you to. I just haven't gone to that stable.
Well, for me, it was outside of a random cave. I saw these two people fighting. They're brothers, I think. They're not humans. I don't know what sort of species they are, but they, humanoid, I suppose. And one of them in particular really wants those bubble gems, I think they're called, the things that you collect from the bubble frogs. Yeah, he's really keen. He really, really wants them really badly. So once you find him, you can trade them in and he gives you stuff. So, yeah.
Interesting.
And it's a bit like President Hudson in that you kind of follow him around. Like it's not like a puzzle like President Hudson, but it's in that he randomly will appear in different places and you can trade in your things kind of thing. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I'm trying to think where I first encountered that pair. And it may be like the Hudson, like our Addison friend. It may be that they randomly go to different places, so it might not be the same spot. But it was outside a cave. I think it was to the west. I can't remember. It was pretty early on, and I didn't have the glider. It was the shrine, Kirk, that I was talking about, where I had to leave because you needed the glider to complete the shrine.
Okay.
And that's when I realized I couldn't. I needed to go back to Lookout Landing and actually do the thing and get the glider. So yeah, that was fun. Speaking of getting arrows in chests, there was one shrine that I just did recently. It was called the Kitawak Shrine, and there were arrows in the treasure chest there, which I was like, oh, arrows, thanks. Yeah. But you did need them to complete the shrine. So I was thinking, and I didn't realize that at the time, but then afterwards I thought, oh, maybe that's why they gave me arrows, in case I didn't have any. I don't know. Do you think?
Yeah, I've noticed that too. They've been putting some kind of just general purpose items in there. I guess that like in older Zelda games you'd have a pot, right? You have some pots in that room that have those things. I haven't really seen pots really.
No.
But
Sky Islands.
Yeah, I think there was some in the Great Sky Island at the beginning. That was about it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like those would be kind of nice. So you just have some pots around. And then the treasures are truly like every treasure quest treasure chest I'm opening. I'm just kind of like, please be something good. But I'm just like something bad,
Yeah, it is like that. Fingers
another
crossed.
weapon you don't have room to carry.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. That happens a lot. Yes.
Yeah. that is one thing. I've been getting a lot of rusty weapons. And I think, because they have the fuse ability, they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Rusty weapon, just fuse it to something. It's breathes new life into it. And it's like, but it's still not as nice as that.
When I went to talk to Pura and she sent me to the general guy.
Yep.
He said something to the fact that, or no, there was another gentleman maybe there, but he said something to the fact that all
weapons are decaying.
Have been, decayed. They haven't found any nice weapons or.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he's like, the only thing we can do is strengthen them. So I'm guessing that's it. Like, we're just not going to find a actual like nice weapon.
Nice weapon. Yeah. Yeah, because I've even found some themed ones for like Goron and Zora, but they're all decayed. They're all in bad state. So I guess that's just maybe part of the story. Or
have you done any interesting fusing with weapons, like gemstones and stuff? Because I found a few. I guess they're wizrobes that fly around and attack you with wands, and they're kind of hard to beat. But when you do, you get the weapon, and it's like a staff with a gem on the end, and it gives you like you can freeze things or you can zap things with electricity. Have you kind of seen any of those floating around?
I've gotten the wands, or I've seen the little wands, but they're just I haven't fused anything to them. There was an interesting one that I saw, but it was just a video. Someone took a Lizalfos tail and fused it to the end of something, and it creates like this like whip effect.
Wow!
Like the tail, like you swing it, and then the tail kind of extends to get
furls,
because the Lizalfos tail is kind of curled up.
Yeah, right. Anyway. That's kind of cool. It's like
there's some interesting fuses happening out there.
Yeah,
I will say the arrows. It's been a little frustrating. When I'm fusing with arrows, I've got a ton of items now, and I'm scrolling a lot, like left to right.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I saw there's an option to sort by most used, so I might need to just
handy.
Use that sort, because like sorting by type and sorting by the other, it's either at one end or the other. You're like, I'm like, oh, I sorted by type. Let me go all the way right. Oh, okay, that type is on all the way left. So.
That's a good point. I've had that same issue, and I can't. And because you're scrolling through, and you like, what does that thing look like that I want for this fuse right now? And so you scroll past it, you go back and forth. Oh man, there it is. Yeah, that's a bit little annoying. Like I like that it keeps it on the last one you use. So if you're using one, like I use the fire one a lot, the fire flower thing, whatever it is. Yeah. So that usually is there for me. But then if I move on to, say, a bright bulb. If I want to light up something and then I have to find the bright bulb, then I have to find the fire thing again. Or if I want to ice someone, what's the ice flower look like?
I would really like it if they did like a favorites or something like I could save a fuse recipe, right, so to speak, and maybe if you had like a little radial menu that came up that you held right on it, and then you just like, oh yeah, here's my fire arrow or my ice arrow, and then I don't know, just to have some sort of favorites. It's a little cumbersome right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would love that too. And the eyeballs, I guess they're useful as well. I think once you've started attaching eyeballs to arrows to shoot things, it's hard not to, because it's just so much easier.
Yeah, it's like every arrow needs that, right? It's like I got tons of Keith eyeballs. Let's make all of them homing arrows. But
yeah, exactly. It's so handy. Yeah, I do like that. I was going to ask something else just then. What was it? I know. This might be a silly question, but speaking of fusing, so arrows, easy, right? Well, not easy. It's cumbersome, but easy to do in terms of you just hold your bow, you press the up, on the D-pad. When you want to fuse something to a sword, the only time I've done it is when I'm holding the sword and there's something on the ground and you can fuse, right? But what if you've got something in your item catalog that you want to fuse to your sword? Do you have to drop it and then do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Like the fuse is honestly the one I've used the least, other than the arrows, right? Like obviously we're using fuse a ton with the arrows, but it's a little cumbersome. Like a fuse seems very opportunistic. Like I would use it, if there's a rock right next to me and I need to break through, there's like some rubble that I need to break through with a rusty sword and attach a rock at the end, cool. But I'm very rarely intentionally fusing a sword item. Right?
Yeah, I find the same. Like I definitely want to have something with a rock on it in my kind of inventory, just in case I come up to something that needs smashing and there's no rocks lying around, or I'm like, oh, I really wish I had something with a rock on it right now. So I like to have one in my kind of collection ready to go. But yeah, generally the other one I like to do is when you get what's the skeleton little dudes called?
The Stalfos.
Yeah, Stalfos. When you smash them and you can attach a Stalfos arm to a weapon and it becomes really strong. It adds like 20 or something attack. Yeah. They're very fragile though. They break really easily, but they're very strong. So I like to do that too. Yeah, but it is a bit opportunistic. That's a really good way to put it. Kirk, since you're 50 hours in, do you have any tips on fusing? Do you use it a lot yourself?
Yes, I do. Mostly when I'm in the dungeons and I'm approaching the tougher guys, you can sort your items by attack power. And so I will do that. I will see what adds the best attack onto a weapon. And I actually got, again, this tip from Sam. Thank you. But yeah, then that will help you get through a lot of fights that maybe would have been pretty tough otherwise, because it can more than double the power of a weapon sometimes. So you end up able to cut through things pretty quickly. Otherwise, it is one of the items that I forget about doing, and the whole hassle of having to throw it on the ground and then fuse.
Yeah, it seems a little cumbersome as well. I think for me, I probably use Ascend and Ultra Hand the most. I keep forgetting about Recall, actually. I haven't used that all that often, to be honest.
Yeah, Recall and Fuse are underutilized so far. Yeah. There was that one dungeon where like in hindsight, it's like, oh, that was literally meant for Recall. And
right.
I literally I used Ultra Hand, I moved this thing around, and then I was like, I should have used Recall on it. And then I used Recall on it, but I moved it around so much, so it just recalled it back to where it originally So I lost the history that I needed to.
Oh, that's funny. It needs like a reset or something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it remembers back to a certain like obviously it's remembering what was the most recent motion that happened on it, right? So if something drops from the ceiling, and if you use Recall, then you can ride it up. But if you then I'm going to move this thing around now, now it just remembers the recalling of where it was, right?
That's funny. It's a good tip. Good tip when I get to that dungeon.
If you see something falling, you cause something to fall, ride that thing.
Yeah.
Use Recall.
Yeah. Awesome. I had one more question. which is about something I noticed near the geoglyph when I was exploring near Lake Hyrulian. Excuse me. And it was a dragon in the sky. It was like this long, thin, almost like a Chinese dragon. Have you seen these flying around? Has anyone encountered these?
Other than the first one at the beginning in the Sky Islands, I have not seen another one.
Yeah, I haven't seen
right. Kirk, have you seen them?
Yeah, okay. I've seen a couple of them. In fact, I think it's one of the cooler elements in the game when you're like just looking around and really far off in the distance in the sky. You can barely make out this, like snake-like thing just kind of floating around. Like, oh man, I can hardly wait till I can get to that.
Yes, right. And I haven't got to it. There's one flying around where I am at the moment in the Great Plateau kind of area. And I mean, I'm thinking I need to go up to the Sky Islands to reach it, probably, because it's so high. So I won't say what it does because I do know, because I have a friend who's encountered them properly, like actually seen what they can do. But it's really cool. It sounds really, really cool. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, they did have dragons in Breath of the Wild. The same ones that would fly around, but I think there's only like three or four.
Okay.
Yeah. And they gave you scales, right?
Yeah, they give you scales. So yeah, I'm sure they're doing maybe more with them this time. But yeah, I remember seeing some of those last time. Yeah. I did see a Gleeok one time, the three-headed dragon thing.
Oh yeah.
And I just avoided it for now.
You moved out of it.
Yeah, I was like,
was that surrounded by gloom by any chance, or was it just randomly? No,
it was in the air. So this one was flying around. There was. So it was fairly ominous. I happened to be up on some Sky Islands, I think above Death Mountain, and then I was going to Zora next, Zora's Domain, and kind of like jumped off and was gliding over there, and I saw this big, huge thing, and I'm like, ooh, and you can see it. You can see it's like glowing heads, the three heads.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, yeah, let's avoid that.
Yeah, it sounds intimidating. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's.
I'm sure that'll be fun to fight when I have the armor or the
armor and weapons
and the firepower to.
Yeah. Quick question before we close off for Kirk, since you're the furthest ahead, obviously without spoilers. But have you encountered the Master Sword?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, at 50 plus hours, I think there may have been a memory, one of the Zelda memories that you get where they gave it was part of the story. But as for actually seeing it or having any idea where it is, no.
Okay. Cool. Wow, we've got so much more to do in this game, but it's just been such a fun time the last 2 weeks, and I look forward to kind of continuing my journey, and I'm sure you all do as well. Did anyone have any kind of final thoughts or anything they wanted to add before we close things off?
I'm still working on the review.
Yeah.
But I really want to get a comprehensive, experience with the game. So I need to do more dungeons. I obviously need to do some of the geoglyphs. So it's probably going to be another 2 weeks that still be cruising through and hopefully see most of what it has to offer before publishing our review.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure there.
Obviously, it's not gonna determine whether people buy the game or not, right? Like, hopefully, you've already bought it. I don't think my review is going to sway that, but just I'll
still
have my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it'd be good historically because we always look back at the Breath of the Wild review that you did at the time, and obviously that puts you in that time and place. How you felt about that game. So it's good historically as well, I think, just to have that reference point. Yeah. Have we heard anything further about sales? I actually wanted to ask last week when we talked about sales, I meant to ask whether that 10 million, was it, that they said over the first 3 days, was that just physical copies? Like they don't include eShop, like downloads, do they? When they talk about sales numbers? Or do you think they did in this case?
Well, so Nintendo doesn't include digital for the sales tracking entities around the world, but obviously internally, I'm pretty sure they're including digital because that was a press release that they sent out directly. So they, I'm sure that was including digital.
Yeah,
but it's just like the NPD group for the US and some of the like the European groups and some around the world. They don't include the digital sales there, but
okay, yeah, makes sense.
yeah, I think it was digital. I have to look at the press release again, but it was kind of similar to their press release for Scarlet and Violet, right? Like they said, 10 or 12 million in 3 days or something. So I don't think Zelda didn't eclipse Scarlet and Violet, which kind of makes sense. You know, Pokemon's just a juggernaut all its own, but that's still very impressive for a Zelda game. Like it still, I think, broke records for the Zelda franchise.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, super impressive. Yes. Well, I'll let you all go back to your nights and Zelda. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me again this week. And thank you, listeners. If you like the show, please give us a like on YouTube or give us a review on Spotify and or other platforms. And if you would like to support us, we put out a bi-monthly magazine, and you can head over to patreon.com/PureNintendo to support the magazine. We're working on our next issue right now, and it's going to be all about Pikmin 4. So look forward to seeing that. Thank you again, Kirk and Katey and Justin, and look forward to talking to you again very soon. Until then, game on, everybody.
See ya.